Hey guys, welcome back to Zomu EDU, and you all are tuning in to another video in our video series, Scheduling Dilemma. Today we're going to be talking about AP Economics and whether or not it would be an interesting course for you guys to consider for your upcoming high school year. So the way this works is I have 7 essential questions that I will answer to the best of my abilities about the class AP Economics. Some of these questions were written by me, and I believe that some of the questions that I wrote were essential to understanding about the course AP Economics, and questions that I believed would have been helpful if I had known them before entering the AP Economics course. Some of the other questions are written by my classmates that have not yet taken AP Economics but want to know more about the class. So some of them are some of the most popular questions that they've asked me after I finished the course. So I thought that I would just bring them on in here and answer them because they are also very valuable. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question I have is, what will I learn in AP Economics? So that's actually a very important question, and it might kind of answer many questions down the road on whether or not it would be something interesting. So contrary to popular belief, AP Economics is not all about the money. In the grand scheme, it may be. When people think about economics, they only think about the green moolah. But it's also a lot about the psychology behind the consumer and the producer, the buyer and the seller. So, it talks about different factors like taxes or, price floors or price ceilings that can affect the behaviors of consumers or the buyers or the customers and the producers or the sellers or the businesses. So it's mainly studying the behavior of people and what factors affect the rationale behind their decisions. So it's a very interesting course if you want to kind of have a psychology, sociology, and financial type blend within all your classes. So it gives you the best of those three worlds. And I think it's also very informative because it makes you very aware of the decisions you make when you're buying goods. So AP Economics is essentially the psychology behind the producer and the consumer. And also in the grand scheme, it connects to money. So I think that would be a good answer to the first question. So the second question I have is, what do I have to do, or what do I have to be good at for AP Economics? So essentially, what are some prerequisites that I should be good at, or that I should be knowledgeable in order to succeed in AP Economics? Well, AP Economics, throughout your whole course, you're going to be reading and analyzing a lot of graphs. So you have to be able to understand, okay, you have to be able to understand axes, the X and Y axis, what they're telling you, how to read graphs. It can be a bar graph, a line graph, different types of graphs, and analyze them. So come to conclusions based off the data that's shown on that graph. So, if some of you are taking the ACT, it's very, very similar to like the science section where you have to analyze tables, charts, graphs. That's basically what AP Economics is. You're not going to be discussing about biology, physics, and all that stuff. You're going to be taking it in terms of an economics, money, context, but it's very intensive in reading charts, analyzing charts, graphs, and tables, and making conclusions based off of those. So you should be, you should have a good introduction on reading charts and graphs and being able to, label axes, understand what they represent, and further analyze them. So if you're good in analysis, if you're good in ACT science, then I think AP Economics would be a very strong suit for a person like you. Additionally, for AP Economics, you have to be decent at math. There are some equations you need to know and you need to be able to manipulate in order to come to a good answer. So I remember on the AP Economics test, there was an equation we needed to know, and we needed to do some math behind it. So it's not math intensive, but there is some basic math, mainly pre-algebra, addition, subtraction, multiplication, maybe a little bit of some algebra as well. So it is a little bit of math, and you should be pretty concrete on those things because most of that math we learned in middle school and also the beginning years of high school. So typically AP Economics is a sophomore, junior, senior course. So you should be well versed in the math that's going to be covered in AP Economics. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, but if you're a whiz at math, AP Economics just got a lot more easier for you because it's a lot more easier to piece in the details. So the third question I have is, how much homework does AP Economics have? So I guess the first way I can answer this is the type of homework you're going to get in AP Economics is it's going to be very reading intensive. So specifically, we had a textbook. It was the Gregory Mankiw edition. He was the author. And I think that he's also a very popular author for a lot of high school students learning economics. So most likely, if you are taking the course, you're going to be reading from his textbook. And basically, most of the homework assignments revolved around reading the chapters and maybe doing one worksheet. So you're going to be reading almost a couple chapters per unit. I think maybe 2 to 3 sections per chapter, and that could range anywhere from 10 to 15 pages. So you might have per day, you might just have one sheet of homework, one just worksheet, or you might have a reading assignment where you have to read a chapter that could be 5 to 10 pages. How much homework do you have? Typically, not a lot. Economics is not known for giving a lot of homework. Of course, that varies from high school to high school. But AP Economics is generally has the reputation of not giving a lot of homework, and the homework that it does give is mainly reading, the chapters in the book and also doing 1 or 2 worksheets maximum. So that kind of goes into a segue of answering the fourth question: how much time do I spend on AP Economics per day? Well, in my opinion, from specifically my point of view and what I've heard from my friends, if it's a homework night, meaning you just have to read the chapter and do a worksheet, it might range from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. If you're a really fast reader and you get your work done, you're an into the zone type of person and you get it done very quickly, about 15 minutes, maybe even less. And if you take your time, try to understand everything, if you want to take your time reading the chapter, maybe 30 to 35 minutes on a homework night. But if you're studying the night before a test, or if you're studying a couple days before the test, it might range from 45 minutes to an hour, because one test, one unit test in AP Economics goes through a couple ideas. So in order to refresh your mind on those ideas, and in order to master them for the test, it may take a little longer, about 45 minutes to an hour. Specifically for me, I've never had a study night for economics that surpassed an hour, and the one that did surpass an hour was a multi-chapter test. So it was on, I think, chapter 23, 24, and 25. So it took a little bit more time to refresh my knowledge on it. But overall, before the night before a test, typically 45 minutes, maybe even less for a lot of people. So yeah, that's the typical range. And then from a homework night, 15 to 30 minutes. So you're not looking at a lot of homework, but it is important to be consistent in at least spending a little bit of time every day keeping track with your AP Economics course, so you don't forget a lot of the information and have to really cram the night before with all that stuff that you need to figure out the night before. So it's not worth it, but per day I would give it maybe 15 to 30 minutes of homework. All right, so what are some good resources for AP Economics? So this kind of goes into, all right, is once I get into the course, or let's say I enroll into AP Economics, is there a lot of opportunities for extra resources that we can use in order to get information and get extra help? Well, I think that definitely AP Economics, there is a lot of good resources. Let's say that you didn't understand a lecture that your teacher gave you and you want to get more information. There are plenty of YouTube videos that gives you a bunch of tutorials on some of the concepts. Additionally, there are many tutors available in economics from what I've seen, and also a good amount of study guides you can print off as PDF files online. And some of those resources I'll link down below that I've used throughout the year. So if you do enroll in the course, the resources that I link down below could be of help to you. But some of the resources that I found to be very helpful was, number one, ACDC Economics. It's a YouTube channel where there is an economics teacher, goes over basically all the concepts you need to know in a specific unit, and for the AP test also he does have a couple videos for the AP test. But he goes over a lot of stuff in detail, very, very clear, easy to understand, a lot of clarity. So I definitely used his resource a lot. Throughout my time in the AP Economics course. He did help me on a lot. It helped me to further understand or better understand some of the concepts that I wasn't able to grasp in the 50-minute period we had in class. So he was a very good resource. Additionally, we're very excited to announce that we already finished for Zomu EDU uploading all the study guides and videos that you guys need for the AP Economics course. So our study guides were written by students that have, aced AP Economics and also the AP test, and they're very, very clear. They're very, very nicely written. I personally used them for some of the tests, and I thought that they were great. Instead of reading, a 15-page chapter, you can just read the 3-page study guide and essentially get the same information. So I think another good resource would be our website, www.zomuedu.com, where if you go under the AP Economics section, there are a bunch of study guides and a bunch of videos to help you guys out. Additionally, there are other resources that I'll link down in the description below, but overall, if you do enroll in the course, there is a lot of help. And also, I looked online on some of the tutoring sites, and there are a good amount of economics tutors if you really need one. If you're just not understanding something and you really need help from like a former teacher or a person with an economics degree, there are many people on some tutoring sites that are more than willing to help and are very knowledgeable in economics. And okay, so the next question we have is, how hard is the class? Well, I think that's pretty much the holy grail question that everybody tuned into this video wants to know. So I think overall the class is, it's not terribly difficult if you're dedicated and putting in the time, at least once every day, or maybe if you're extremely Spartan, you understand the concepts in class, maybe once every 2 days. So, overall, I think that it's not the most difficult of AP classes, and of course it's relative to the type of person. I've seen people that weren't great at AP Economics. They were very smart people, very capable, but they just didn't understand some of the concepts, and there are some people that breeze through it. So, if you're the type of person that loves logic, loves to understand the behavior behind people, and kind of, understands, intuitively, okay, if there's a tax, then this can happen, that can happen. If you can kind of piece together different pieces of data, if you can analyze data really well, if you can read charts, tables really well and interpret from it and make conclusions, and also you're very solid in math and logic, you should have a pretty easy time in the course. But once again, you get out what you put in. So if you really work hard in the course, you'll get the grade you want. I have no doubt about that. So I think that overall it's not a terribly difficult course. It doesn't have the reputation of failing a bunch of students, maybe like the reputation that physics has, and maybe chemistry occasionally. But it is a course that is challenging. It provides a challenge to a lot of people, including myself, but it is definitely doable if you put in the time every day and religiously give at least 15 minutes, just skimming through the chapter, looking through the notes. You should be A-okay. And the last question is the class useful for real life? And I think that AP Economics, the class title, kind of answers that question itself, because you look at the world today, you look at all the news, and they talk about jobs, they talk about GDP, they talk about, most of the news is covered with economics. It's covered with businesses like Google, Facebook, Tesla, some of the big businesses, and how their stock prices go up, down, why they go up and down, some factors that can influence that. Maybe in the news you read about some markets that are starting to grow, like the energy sector, where people are doing solar power, wind power, and all those different types of different energy usages. So that's all economics. businesses, producers, you are going to go out there and buy something, maybe on a daily basis. So you're surrounded by economics whether or not you know it. And if you can be more aware of it after going through the course, it can help you in your daily life. It can be very, very useful in your daily life because you're covered by economics. You just don't know it yet. But once you're taught about some of the cases of economics, then you'll be more aware, and it can help you in your daily life and give you some skills that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't taken the course. So overall, that's AP Economics. It's a class that I thoroughly enjoyed. I really, really liked it, and I do give a 10 out of 10 recommendation for it. Once again, the decision is yours. Here's some of the information that I can provide in a bite-sized video. Hopefully it's useful. I also hope that you tune in to for future Zomu EDU videos, and please do visit the link for Zomu EDU and ACDC Economics and check out the resources we have for AP Economics, micro and macro. Thank you, and hope you tune in for more.